Z, or the Garchomp's ground moves, rather. So you see a couple different synergistic plays there with Garchomp, Gyarados kind of working together there, and Drifblim obviously being able to boost up the speed of his team. A lot of power there with that Pheromosa as well, Aaron.
Yeah, that's really, really well said there. So I think this is actually kind of cool because Shoma, when he won Worlds in 2015, used a very bulky kind of oriented team surrounding around Cresselia. But this time around, looks like he's got a more hyper-offensive one, especially with that Pheromosa and Tapu Lele combination. I think we're just about ready to jump into the first game, but this is really cool. Both players are using a lot of eccentric picks, and both are obviously very phenomenal players and team builders. I'm excited to see how this one shapes out. Shoma's team, I think, yeah, you mentioned about that Drifblim. We saw it get top 4 at the Anaheim Regional Championships last weekend, and so I'm curious if Shoma's running a similar set. Most of the Drifblims you see in this format typically go for that Unburden and try to get a fast Tailwind up. But it looks like we're going to jump into this first game.
Yeah, about to jump into it. I do want to just make a note here that Shoma does not have a face cam working due to some traveling complications there. So just look at Alex's pretty face. In the meantime, we're going to see a pretty interesting lead here coming out. We're going to see that Drifblim, Tapu Lele. So we'll probably see that Psychic Seed pop here to give that Unburden boost right off the bat. We're going to see the P2 and Nihilego. Nihilego, a great anti-check or check to those different Tapus with that great typing and great special defense stat.
Yeah, really well said there. I think now Ego, it's probably one of the scariest Pokemon to stare down when you're using Tapu Lele because it just outspeeds you. It can Sludge Bomb. That Drifblim, of course, does get the special defense boost, so that could actually be a big deal. Because of Unburden, Drifblim's ability, Drifblim has a really good position here to potentially set up a Tailwind, but maybe you don't want to set up a Tailwind when you're staring down a Porygon 2, obviously one of the best Trick Room setters, if not the best Trick Room setter in this format. So Shoma's team being a little bit more fast-oriented, I'm wondering if there's a potential taunt on Drifblim where Lele to stop Porygon 2 from setting up Trick Room. Now he goes to a really big threat here, though, because it can just threaten Lele with an immediate Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, lots of great points there. It's going to be great to see how this turn plays out here, whether we're going to see a Trick Room or whether we're going to see a taunt, like you said, from either the Drifblim or the Lele. There's two different options there, but it seems like we're going to see a switch out here into the Garchomp slot from the Drifblim. So setting up Tailwind does not seem to be the right strategy. We're going to see a Sludge Bomb fire off into the Lele, and that is going to do a tremendous amount of damage, but he trained that one up enough to live that hit. Poison on the Lele, which is going to really hinder its effectiveness, but we're going to see a Psychic into the P2, and that does a lot of damage. My goodness. And the Spadef drop, Aaron. What was that damage? Jeez.
Wow,
is that like what is that thing holding? That did so much to a P2.
If I had to guess, it's Choice Specs, or Alex's Porygon 2 is just super, super offensive, but I would guess Choice Specs. We actually, there was a really key point there. So now Ego didn't have Life Orb, and with now Egos, you typically see Life Orb or Focus Sash as the item. Occasionally a choice item as well, but because there wasn't a Life Orb, Lele was actually able to survive that Sludge Bomb and get a huge Psychic off against Porygon. Alex did get Trick Room up though, which is pretty helpful. Obviously now Ego's going to be kind of the fastest Pokemon on the field now, presumably if it's the kind of typical now Egos we see. Porygon here, yeah, it did take a lot of damage, but it does have the potential to recover. However, if Porygon opts to recover and not attack the Lele slot, then Lele might be able to get a Psychic off. Garchomp here is threatened if Porygon has Ice Beam, which most Porygons carry, so here it's going to be a really interesting decision on whether Alex decides to go in the offensive or decides to just recover and maybe switch the Now Ego out.
Yeah, great points there. I'm definitely curious to see. Oh, so we're going to find some intel on this Nihilego here. It's definitely not going to be Scarfed. Most likely Focus Sash, as you mentioned before. Big Ice Beam coming off on the P2 into the Lele slot, getting rid of that threat off the field, revealing that he does have that Ice Beam, of course, for the Garchomp, as you mentioned. There's an Earthquake there, but a really timely protect from Alex's side there. This Earthquake is going to do a lot, but I don't know if it's going to pick up the kill on the Porygon. We'll see kind of what this Porygon is working with here.
Yeah, it's really close, but it doesn't pick up that knockout. If you're Alex, you must be really content about that. He went for the Ice Beam onto the top of Lele slot, knowing, okay, Garchomp probably can't knock me out unless he goes for a Z move. So knowing that, if I can knock out the Lele, which threatens me immediately with the knockout this turn, then the following turn, because I'm so slow, I can just recover under Trick Room. Now you go protected there, so we obviously know it's not a choice item up until this at this point. Given that we didn't see Life Orb, Focus Sash would make a lot of sense. It could be a potential Z move as well, but I think if you're Alex, you got to definitely like your position a little bit because you've got Trick Room up still, and Porygon, sure, it took a lot of damage, but that Tapu Lele, which is a pretty big threat to the Porygon, is out of the way, and you still have a couple turns of Trick Room left. So now Nayugo's in a kind of awkward position because it does get outsped by the Garchomp, but Porygon, of course, did show that Ice Beam, so it might just be able to knock out that Garchomp if Shoma's Garchomp isn't invested.
Yeah, I just want to point out something here, too. This is pretty important. Alex, just big shout out to Mr. Ogloza, who is watching this, who just came back from his chemotherapy treatment. Alex, if he does win this tournament, has announced that he is going to donate any of his winnings to colon cancer research. So just a noble cause there. Alex is really fighting not only for his dad, but for any people who are dealing with cancer or have gone into remission or any of that stuff. So big props to Alex there, of course, and definitely going to be rooting for him and his cause there. We're going to see a recover here for the P2, of course. Taking advantage of that trickery, I'm going to be the fastest thing on the field as we saw that Driplim come in. There's a earthquake coming off here. This should pop the Nihilego back down to its sash or bring it down to its sash if it's carrying it, and we are going to indeed see that right there. Very interesting play. We'll see what this Nihilego is going to do. There's a Shadow Ball coming off, which is going to target the Nihilego, and that will actually pick up the kill there. So doubling into that slot was a good decision there for Shade. Being able to get rid of that Nihilego, which was a huge threat to his team, especially if it was carrying Hidden Power Ice later on.
Yep, really, really good analysis there. Overall, I think Alex was in a kind of awkward position because he got the Trick Room up, but I think Alex was hoping that Now Eagle would probably feint on the field a little bit earlier on so that he could sweep fully under Trick Room. That evidently wasn't the case. That was a free turn of Trick Room where Shoma did a lot of damage and Alex didn't really do much damage in return. We do see the Torkoal make an appearance though, and one thing to note on Shoma's team is he doesn't really have weather to stop Trick Room. So Alex's game plan here makes a lot of sense because if you look at the composition of Shoma's team, if you can, prevent or if Trick Room goes up, Alex can kind of just sweep through with Eruption and Ice Beam because Torkoal hits really hard and Porygon covers everything that kind of resists the attacks of Torkoal. So Garchomp here, sure, it looks threatening with the Earthquake, but Trick Room is still up. And we've already seen Drifblim's item. It is that Psychic Seed, but because Drifblim switched out and now is back in, it doesn't have that special defense boost anymore. So Alex really has to be able to make sure he makes the most out of the remaining Trick Room that he has and maybe potentially try to set up another one in the future. However, since he does have 2 turns right now, I think that he's definitely in a decent position because even if Shoma double protects here, next turn, Alex can get 1 big attack off. So Alex really needs to make the most out of these next 2 turns.
Yeah, factoring in that Eruption in the Sun, coming off potentially a Charcoal boosted Torkoal or just stat boosted in general, it does spread and, of course, hit things very, very hard. We are going to see a Protect coming out of the Garchomp here. Yep. We'll see if he did target with that P2 or if Alex was able to predict and go for a recover here. That's going to be very interesting to see, but you're going to see just how much damage this Eruption does to the Drifblim and actually almost picks up the kill. Ice Beam into the Garchomp, does get stopped by a Protect. We're going to see a Drifblim carrying Rain Dance. I did not expect that by any stretch of the imagination. Perhaps looking to pair that with his Gyarados on his squad, or perhaps just having some sort of a check for weather in general. Did not expect to see that under any circumstances, Aaron.
No, not at all. That is absolutely crazy, and I think it kind of maybe put Shoma back into this one. Now, Alex does have 1 more turn of Trick Room, but an Ice Beam plus another attack from Torkoal will knock out that Garchomp, and Torkoal can still Eruption here. So it's really going to come down to what Shoma has in the back. If, Pheromosa is one of the biggest enemies to Porygon too, but the thing is, he can't really get a safe switching into Pheromosa. So this turn, Shoma's most likely going to lose that Drifblim unless he has Protect, and Garchomp, it either has to take the Ice Beam and the double target, or has to switch out. And if it's Gyarados in the back, I think Shoma, still definitely has a really good position. That Rain Dance definitely puts him, back into this, but it's still pretty scary. We'll see what Shoma does have in the back. Maybe he goes for a double protect with Garchomp. Looks like Alex wants that weather though. Oh, and that's the last one.
Yeah, we're going to see the Lilligant come out here in the rain. Of course, not going to have the advantage of that speed boost that it would normally get in the sun due to its chlorophyll ability. Porygon's going to go for a nice little recover there, but we see a great play on Shade's side there, picking up a Swords Dance, boosting Garchomp's attack by 2 stages. There's a Shadow Ball, and the tides have turned in this game. It looked like Alex was completely in the driver's seat when he had that Torkoal on the field with the Porygon and Trick Room up, but that surprise Rain Dance has really, really changed things out, Aaron.
Yeah, so Shoma just pulled a full 180. Alex decided to not go for the Ice Beam and the Eruption play, probably predicting Garchomp to switch out. And if you went for that play, actually Garchomp and Drifblim both would have fainted, and that probably would have been game right there. But it is a little bit risky because you don't know what's in the back, and I think Alex probably switched into Logan, anticipating a Gyarados switch in. However, Shoma just went all in on that Swords Dance. That might have actually just won him the game. Alex looked like he was in a really good position, but he predicted something that ended up not coming his way, and Shoma made a really big play, probably knowing Alex is probably going to think I'm going to switch out, so why don't I just go for it? And he got a Swords Dance on that Porygon too. Definitely it's got to be a little bit scared right now. Lilligant, we don't know what moveset it's carrying though, so we'll see if it has anything clutch to pull back things, maybe a Z move or a Sleep Powder.
We're going to see a protect come off for the Lilligan here. I'm a little concerned to see that tailwind, and there it is. And that is going to make things very challenging if this P2 does not get another Trick Room off here. It's going to be interesting. We're going to see a Groundium. Z, I'm assuming, coming off from this Garchomp slot, probably aiming into the P2. That Swords Dance boosted, and I have a feeling this Porygon 2 might not be able to take this hit. And if this P2 goes down, this could be game here for Shade. Yep. Great play there, getting that tailwind up, taking advantage of that. That's actually going to make a huge difference because now that Garchomp will outspeed the Lilligant on the next turn, as tailwind does double your speed stat, just like Chlorophyll would. So getting in that Sun boost here again from the Torkoal is not going to be enough for that Lilligant to outspeed the Garchomp, we can assume at this point in time. So great plays there from Shade, really pulling that one back. It really looked like he was backed into a corner until he busted out that Rain Dance and made a very bold play with that Swords Dance there. But this is going to be really tough for Alex to kind of pull this one back at this point.
Yeah, that was a great tailwind play by Shoma, and I'm just amazed. Like, Shoma made a really risky play, but he knew he had to make that play in order to get back into this one because, you know, if Alex just went for the obvious Eruption and the Ice Beam, then it would have been a 3-1 advantage. But Shoma pulling a full 180. That's what I was saying. Like, maybe Alex wants to consider trying to get another Trick Room off, but with that Swords Dance, it's very difficult to be able to do that. So Shoma played that perfectly. Not only does the Tailwind help him so much here, because now Lilligant, it does have the Chlorophyll, which boosts its speed, but Tailwind basically matches that, and Garchomp presumably should be able to outspeed it here. It's really, I'm also curious what Shoma has in the back, but Torkoal really doesn't appreciate the situation at all. Torkoal really can't do anything against Garchomp unless it's got that hitting power ice. But we'll see if maybe Lilligan can survive an attack here and go for maybe a Z move onto the Garchomp, because that would be huge.
Yeah, that could really turn things around here. But if we see a Poison Jab from this Garchomp into that Lilligant, that is definitely going to be... Oh, we're going to see an Earthquake here. So good protect there on the Torkoal. You see Drifblim, of course, changing the weather again, minimizing the effectiveness of that Torkoal. And this Earthquake is going to do a solid chunk. And at that +2 Earthquake, not quite enough to take on the Lilligant. He's going to pray. Alex prays for that Sleep Powder hit. He needed that to hit that Garchomp to pull this one back. But he is going to miss that Sleep Powder. So it's a tough situation for Alex in this match right now. Full health Torkoal, but facing down a +2 Garchomp is not an easy task. We're going to see the forfeit come out here for Alex. Smart decision. You'll often see VGC players tend to forfeit when they realize that the match doesn't seem winnable, to try to reduce the amount of information that they give their opponent. We've seen the Sleep Powder on the Lilligant, but perhaps keeping a potential Z Bloom Doom in the back, or some of those different tech sets could really prove to be useful coming into match 2 here, where Alex tries to pick up a W.
Yeah, so Alex went for the best play possible there. The thing is, if Garchomp was eliminated, depending on what Shoma had in the back, like Torkoal actually could have still put some damage out even with Rain up, just because the Drifblim was at really low HP. But that was a really, really incredible game. It looked like Alex, anytime it's Trick Room versus a fast mode, or fast team, you got to ask, like, what kind of answers does the fast team have against the Trick Room team? We've actually seen a bunch of that even when we played earlier today, but with Sage against Wolf, a lot of Trick Room versus more hyper-offensive, fast kind of carry-oriented teams. So in this case, Shoma, it looked really scary, but because Alex was kind of wasting Trick Room turns while Now Ego was out, and Shoma was able to pull that Garchomp in, and because Alex kind of just didn't target down the Garchomp with Ice Beam, predicting it to switch out or anticipating it to protect, where Trick Room couldn't go up again because it did get that Swords Dance off. So I think Alex, you can't be too frustrated about that one, because if you just made one different play, Ice Beam and Eruption that turn, you would win the game. So anytime you lose a game in VGC, I mean, this is best of 3. You really have to reflect on what plays could I have done better. Maybe do I want to change up my Pokemon choices or not? I think Alex still definitely has the advantage because of that Trick Room. Shoma didn't even reveal any taunt users, so maybe Alex wants to stick with the strategy again, but this time either not bring the Now Ego or try to get Torkoal in on an earlier spot. He also knows that Drifblim has Rain Dance and that Eruption doesn't knock out the Drifblim, so maybe potentially double targeting into that slot in the future with like an Eruption and an Ice Beam to make sure he has his weather up.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested into this match here to see whether Shade is going to be jumping into the depth of his team. We didn't see a Gyarados in that match. We did not see the Pheromosa. I don't really see too much of application for the Magnezone in this match, but the other two Pokemon could be very, very effective against Alex's team. So going to be interested to see whether he tries to bring that Pheromosa out here to lead, potentially to stop that Trick Room, because we know Pheromosa, especially with those Focus Blasts or even those high jump kicks, Titanium Z can do a number against a Porygon 2, especially one of Alex's nature, which does seem to be a little bit more on the offensive side, as we noticed, or that Lele was just specs, because that did so much damage on that first turn.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you mentioned the Pheromosa, because Pheromosa is like one of the scariest Pokemon, like I mentioned, if you're playing with Porygon too. So Shoma there, he played out of his mind there in the end. He made one really, really big plan. He was able to come out with it. But if you're Shoma, you're probably thinking, okay, I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to go all in on a play. I'd rather try to, put myself in a position where I'm in the advantage. So maybe he wants to consider leading the Pheromosa. But I actually really like Alex's adjustment here. Going with
yeah, you see Alex nod his head in excitement. Yeah, we see the Pheromosa there. Shade predicting the P2. We're just really looking to stop the P2, but this is a great lead matchup for Alex here. Not only does he have the Sun boost here with Lilligant, he's got the potential to put something to sleep. He's got the potential to fire off a Bloom Doom if he's carrying the Z Crystal. He's got the potential to go for an After You, I believe the move is called, or After Me, I'm sorry, which would allow the Torkoal to go above the priority of the Lilligant, which we know is the fastest thing on the field right now, or we can assume based on that Sun. But who knows how this Lilligant is trained. It is possible that Pheromosa, with that incredible 150 plus, I think it's 151 base speed stat, it might still be faster, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Lilligant will outspeed it.
Yeah, I love this because it's like it shows VGC best of 3 adjustment, right? Shoma was like, he's probably going to lead Porygon 2 again. Last time I didn't have a great lead against it. Alex is like, I'm not going to bring it. He's probably going to bring Pheromosa. Lilligant Torkoal here is really deadly because of After You Eruption, and we know that Lele is pretty offensive. So we just see it. Let's see if there's a sash on the Pheromosa and whether Lele can survive this if it's really bulky.
All right, so we actually see the Z Crystal on the Torkoal. Not something I was expecting. I thought the Z Crystal would be held by the Lilligant, so that's pretty interesting there. And it's going to be an Inferno Overdrive, and it looks like he's probably going to target down that Lele slot if I had to guess here. But we're going to see this Inferno Overdrive come off, and that will target the Lele. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Lele is not going to live this hit. Sun boosted, fire powered. That is getting a lot of damage off there, especially coming off an Eruption. We're going to see a U-turn here from the Pheromosa into the Lilligant. Is it carrying a sash? It is not. So the Lilligant does go down, and Pheromosa is going to get some momentum here. Get a switch in. That Beast Boost is going to be nullified, of course, because it will be switching out. And that's actually a big down there for Alex. I think that the Lilligant could have put in some work. I'm a little surprised we didn't see the Eruption there, potentially double targeting, but maybe Alex was just afraid of a potential focus sash Pheromosa.
Yeah, even though that lead looked really good, if Lele... because Lele's bulk is still like pretty decent. So, it actually would have been really bad. You'd imagine if you went for After You Eruption and then Pheromosa had Focus Sash and Lele survived the Eruption, because then Psychic actually probably just knocks out Torkoal because it's Specs and Psychic Terrain boosted. So they trade 1 for 1 there. However, if you're Shoma, you got to be like, okay, that's not too bad because I still have my Pheromosa, and that's my main way to counter this Trick Room. So I'm curious on how Alex is going to deal with that Pheromosa because Garchomp's coming in for Shoma now, and Garchomp obviously just fully threatens the Torkoal. So I would say even though that lead was really good, Shoma probably gets the better end of it because Torkoal is really difficult to use outside of Trick Room. Obviously it thrives when it's next to the Lilligant, but Lilligant just fainted. So now Alex is staring down, 2 of the most offensive Pokemon in the format with that Garchomp and with that Pheromosa. We're going to see Now Ego come in, but we know that Now Ego doesn't have that Life Orb. So Hidden Power Ice might not even be able to knock out Garchomp, which is pretty rough. And Pheromosa still could have that Focus Sash.
Correct. Yeah. Nihilego is going to be able to outspeed that Garchomp by 1 point. And of course, hang on from any hit from a Pheromosa with that Focus Sash, as you mentioned. But you brought up a great point there in saying that without the Life Orb damage, it's very unlikely that the Nihilego can actually take down the Garchomp here with an HP Ice. It just seems incredibly unlikely at this point in time. Most Garchomps are carrying enough bulk or just by default can live that HP Ice despite that 4 times weakness. And this Torkoal is looking like a very kind of sitting turtle here, being outsped and very much so threatened by the Garchomp here. An Earthquake could put a lot of work in.
Yep, definitely. We'll see. This is honestly going to be the turn. Pheromosa opting to U-turn, though, not going for a high jump kick, trying to break a potential sash there on on the Now Ego.
Yeah, we're going to see that sash get broken. It's going to be interesting to see whether this Garchomp does fire off that Earthquake now. Here comes the Driplim, so I'm expecting an Earthquake to be coming off here. I think the Torkoal could probably hang on, but, we're going to see that Nihilego is not taking it, of course, being 4 times weak. Sludge Bomb comes off into the Driplim slot, so great read there. Obviously, that Ghost typing is going to resist the hit, get a little poison damage there, but we saw that Psychic Seed come off there as well and give a nice little boost to the Driplim. But we're going to see the Nihilego go down to an Earthquake. The Torkoal is going to take some big damage, but it does have an incredible defense stat, so it is going to be able to live that hit. But without the Trick Room up and without that Lilligant support, this Torkoal is not in the best spot. Big Flamethrower coming off here into the Driplim slot here. Going to do a good amount of damage, actually, and the poison damage is going to come off there. This Driplim and this Garchomp are looking pretty scary, especially if this Driplim can manage to set up a Tailwind.
Yeah, definitely. Shoma played that last turn really well too. And we do see the Porygon come in, so it's actually not over yet for Alex because we haven't seen a taunt from the Drifblim. So Alex maybe was actually trying to set himself into this position because if he can actually set up Trick Room, then Porygon and Torkoal can actually close this game out. Even though Shoma played that really well, Alex was actually maybe trying to bait the Pheromosa to leave the field so Porygon 2 could come in. And, you know, it looked pretty rough for Alex because Shoma made some really solid plays, but I think Alex might have actually been trying to put himself into this position the entire game. However, Garchomp, I believe, hasn't used its Z move yet, so I don't know if a Z move, because Z moves do go through Protect, so we'll do a maybe potentially even knock out that Torkoal. And if there's taunt on Drifblim, I don't know, it's going to be really difficult for this one to end. But ooh, no taunt. It's a Will-O-Wisp coming out instead.
Yeah, very interesting Drifblim set here. We are going to see that Ground EMZ coming off from the Garchomp. I do expect this to be able to pick up the kill on the Torkoal. Alex is going to be trying to probably set up a Trick Room here, but without that Torkoal to support it, it's going to be really, really tough. But we'll see if this Tectonic Rage will be able to do enough. Based on the damage from the Earthquake, we can assume that this will do enough. I believe Z moves will do about 25% damage from their actual damage under Protect. So based on that Earthquake damage, we are going to see the pick up the kill there. Alex is a bit upset about that one. Torkoal goes down. Porygon 2 is sitting a lone duck. It really is a lone duck this time, Aaron. He's going to set the Trick Room, which will, of course, give him the speed priority. But this is going to be very challenging to deal with the Pheromosa sitting in the back. We still don't know its item. And really, at this point in time, Shade just needs to stall out these turns of Trick Room and just continue to put the offensive pressure on because P2 is unable to target both things, most likely carrying Ice Beam, Recover, Trick Room, and potentially another move like Tri Attack.
Yeah, you know, if there's a couple, like one Pokemon in the metagame, like potentially 1v4. I would say Celesteela or 1v3. Celesteela is probably the best Pokemon to do it, but Porygon could potentially. The only issue is Shoma, like you said, he has to stall out Trick Room here, but that might actually be a little bit hard because Drifblim is going to faint from the poison soon. I don't think we've seen the item on Pheromosa yet, though. All Pheromosa has to do is come in for free and get a high jump kick off against Porygon. However, he could miss high jump kick if that's the fighting attack that he's choosing to use. If he's using Focus Blast like a special variant, we've seen U-turn already, so it's probably going to be high jump kick. Like Alex isn't out of this one yet. He probably needs to hope for a miss. He opts to target the Garchomp here, though. That might not even knock him out, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see the Earthquake come off here, but we do know that P2 with that Eviolite is going to be able to take this hit. Barely does anything, really. Just shy of the kill there. Will-O-Wisp comes off. I'm not quite sure about that play, but I think he probably is carrying Shadow Ball, so there really was no other reason.
Yeah.
And there was no incentive to Tailwind there. So we see the Drifblim go down as it really didn't have another option. And this does allow Shade an opportunity to go into that the Pheromosa for free now. And again, we don't know the Pheromosa's items. This game is not over yet, guys.
Yep.
The Pheromosa could, as we mentioned, could be running Sash. It can't use the Z move at this point. So if he is running double Z moves, we can eliminate that as a potential threat here. And the chance of a high jump kick missing is about 10%. Which would do 50% damage to that Pheromosa. An Ice Beam targeted into that slot could pick up the kill there. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Shade gambles with that high jump kick if he's carrying it. Focus Blast is even less accurate, and whether or not Alex can pull through, because this is not over.
Yeah, this is really going to come down to the wire. I mean, if you're Shoma, you probably like your positioning, especially if you know the item on Pheromosa. Like, if it's Sash, then you know, okay, at least I have to get an attack off. But if he misses the high jump kick, the Pheromosa might just get knocked out. So even though, you know, it was a 3v1 position, Alex knows, okay, Porygon can still do this. It's going to come down to what Pheromosa has, basically. And if it is that high jump kick, whether he connects with it or not. If he does connect with it, then it's all over. Porygon, I guess, since Trick Room is up still, though, could potentially maybe freeze or get a paralysis. He's going for the Thunderbolt instead of the Ice Beam.
Yeah, I got to say, great play, by the way, on Shade's part there to go for the Swords Dance. I was thinking that was a good opportunity just to ensure that he could kill. And then if the high jump kick did miss, there was a chance that the Garchomp could come back and take down the P2 there. But we're going to see that high jump kick does not miss, but that game was close. If that high jump kick missed, that could have been a totally different ballgame.
Absolutely. And we do end up seeing Shoma Honami, the 2015 world champion, defeating Alex Ogloza, the 2014 U.S. national champion. Both of these guys were national champions in their respective countries in the best division, or the oldest division, I should say. So it's really cool to see two national champions get matched up against each other. Shoma ending up taking this at 2-0. I think that's our first 2-0 of this tournament, actually. And that was really, really well played, because Alex's team, I think if you're Shoma, you definitely got to be really scared of because of the Trick Room. But, you know, that first game, he was able to stall out the Trick Room really well and deny it from going up a second time. And then in the second game, he was able to have enough resources in the end where he could have dealt with it. Obviously, a high jump kick miss would have resulted in Alex winning that game most likely. But still, I think both players played really well. Alex going for that lead. I think it's really tough, because after you eruption, eruption. Like, he could have brought Pheromosa down to its sash, maybe would have knocked out Lele, but I think Alex just wasn't comfortable enough with the idea that eruption might not have been able to knock out Lele. So even though the lead looked so good because of the potential sash on Pheromosa and Lele's natural bulk, Alex had to think twice, and as a result, the 1-for-1 trade really wasn't that worth because Shoma ended up getting rid of Lilligant, which is a major threat, and then at the end, he wasn't too worried about Trick Room, and the Z move Earthquake into the Torkoal was a really good play, 100% safe play, knowing you get to do that damage even through Protect.
Yeah, definitely great points there. I think one of the biggest turning points of that match was the Rain Dance of the Drifblim. Just great tech there to stop opposing weather, of course, dealing with potential hail, maybe stopping Aurora Veils, which could potentially harm the team. From a Ninetales, of course, Aurora Veil not activating in the hail. But in this match, we saw that Rain Dance actually proved to be incredibly useful to stop the drought from the Torkoal. So we're going to be headed to a quick break here, guys. Shoma, unfortunately, does not have the ability to jump on for an interview after that match. But we are going to be taking just a short break here, and I just want to take a moment to thank, of course, the ONOG ONOG for the Pokemon Invitational, and a big shout out to GEICO Gaming, of course, for making this happen. Be sure to check out GEICO, guys, to get 50% or more off on your car insurance. So